So, reality. Reality is rarely seen. And it's particularly rarely seen for what it is. Not that it's not perceived, but it is almost always perceived through individual filters. Some people call it through a glass darkly. We see the world either we want to see or we were conditioned to see. And it's filtered through our worldly experience, through our belief systems, through our hopes, our fears, our ambitions. And we build a pretty solid idea of what reality is. And of course, every so often in life, it gets shattered. What gets shattered really is not reality. What gets shattered is the filter, the mechanism through which you experience it. And it gets seen for what it is, which is a false construct, a temporary construct, but one that you live by, one that you lived for, one that you invested everything in. And to have it removed, cracked, broken, is challenging to say the least. It's easier to have reality shift gradually, or our perceptions of it. But that doesn't always happen. And when it shifts quickly, you get to see through the illusions that you hold. You get to see a momentary glimpse, or maybe a little bit longer, of what is. The what is unconditional. It doesn't subscribe to your hopes and your dreams and your ideas about what is. It simply is what it is. It's neither good nor bad. It is really not conditioned by the dualistic idea of things. It is a totality. It is a singularity, if you will. It is all that is. And trying to allow it to be what it is in a way the core of the spiritual struggle. Because we all have to break down our particular viewpoint and our particular series of beliefs and hopes. And it really is sometimes really a difficult awakening. But something remarkable about reality is how real it is, how independent of you it is. You may be one with it, part of it, deeply immersed in it, but it is way beyond you. It's way beyond the collective. It is both completely definable and completely abstract. It is immeasurable, and yet we find ways of measuring it. We keep finding ways of bringing the real into a knowable perception. And that knowable perception is fragile. Part of us knows that, and part of us doesn't know that. And you don't know that you don't know it until it breaks apart. And when it breaks apart, it calls everything into question. Usually we experience this momentary fragmentation through tragic loss. The death of someone that comes out of nowhere. The world being one thing and then shifting to another. The gradual version of that is different. Somebody who passes from the world in a slow and meaningful and natural way doesn't engage the same kind of shock to the system. When something happens suddenly, there is an absence. The absence is not just of the thing itself, but it's of your ability to be aware of it, of your ability to see it, smell it, touch it, feel it. It is no longer there. And that is very, very hard reality. And often reality is described with that word, hard, because it's unchallengeable. It is absolutely what it is and final in what it is. And that finality is something that terrifies human beings. Because we live in this extraordinary illusion of immortality for that which we know to be changeable. We know we are temporary creatures. We don't know why we exist particularly. We don't know what our purpose and goal is. We are given thoughts and understandings and beliefs that kind of try to explain it to us, but we don't know. We do know that we have this very strange sense of permanence, that what we are endures, that what we are is meaningful and purposeful and valuable. We have this strange sense of being real, of being present. And all of that is absolutely true as far as we can tell. And we walk around in a sense of a strange security in it. And yet, what's so remarkable is everything in us knows that whatever this is will not last. It is impermanent. So where is the discrepancy between the assurance on some fundamental level in our day-to-day walking down the street that this is forever, and the complete knowledge that it is not forever? And mostly, we don't challenge these ideas. We just assume for now that everything is fine, and there's something in us that says, when the time comes to deal with the inevitable, I will deal with the inevitable. The truth is, I think, that just puts off dealing. And that when the inevitable starts to occur for people, they are not prepared on any level. The lack of preparedness means that you live in a delusional state, which is that this exquisite sense of permanence isn't true. We have to begin to see through the drama and the illusion of our lives to what is real. And every so often, There's a private personal act that causes that to occur, and every so often there's a public occurrence, a societal occurrence, which we have all just lived through, or are living through as we speak. Let it be known, there are people who are looking at this sudden transformation with great joy. And there are people who are looking at this sudden transformation with grief. That's a signal all by itself that reality is not what we think it is. We are looking at it through different polarities, different sensibilities. Some see darkness and some see light. And some see light and some see darkness. Some perceive the world through what you would call mind and intelligence and clarity and a kind of evolved sense of awareness. And some see the world through what we will call a kind of, let's go back to the word reptilian awareness. One side thinks one is better than the other, but they're both playing out at the same time. Reality encompasses both. It encompasses the evolutionary tract that we seem to be on, and it encompasses the absolute meaninglessness of the entire ride. Reality is all there is right now. The loss of that filter, the direct perception of reality, and the result that it creates for the individual is so profound. And people like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross tried to define it, the stages of what she called grief, meaning irrevocable reality and the perception of it, and the grieving of the loss that is absolutely built into the system. That has stages, and we're all familiar with those stages. And the first one, of course, is denial, where most people live every day. Hard to get past, but the shock of reality will break it apart. Nothing you can do. You cannot dream your way back into a previous reality. You are stuck in this one, or happily in this one. Anger. Anger follows. Anger at what is. Well, if you want a big filter, anger's a big filter. Anger is absolutely written into the equation. The I am that I believed I was, the I am that knew the world through a particular set of ideas, thoughts, and beliefs isn't real. Or it won't hold up to reality. And there's anger. And so there's marching on the streets going, I'm angry and I don't accept what is. Well, that's a viable thing. It's not unnatural. It's part of the process. I do not accept that someone I loved has died, that the world I believed in isn't holding up to what I hoped it would be. This is a process. When one realizes that one's anger and one's deniable nature don't produce any result, really, constructively, one becomes depressed. Depression is a looking at reality, rejecting reality, but acquiescing, in a sense, to the truth of it. Skipping to the last step, acceptance. Accepting reality is, in a way, the journey we are all on together. That's what we're doing here. We are learning day by day, moment to moment, thought by thought, meditation by meditation, to let go of our particular need to see the world in a individualized way and allowing that to fall away into some kind of larger perspective. And what we are allowing ourselves to see, as best as we can get there, is what is. Most people cannot let go of the filter. You will always have your own biology, you will always have your own physiology, you will have your brain system, the process of the persona that you have become will always be, in a way, the window through which you see things. And here's what's really important. So much of what comes through the singular discomfort of being a person is that you are always looking forward to what will be, and you are always looking back to what was, and that the reality of this moment is deeply tinged by the future that seems to be appearing through it. Right now, for people who see the changes of the world through a dark scrim, what they're really seeing is a projection into the future that is not easy to assimilate. And they are seeing that future based on a history of the past that creates an idea of progress and movement forward and uplift and transformative power and possibility. And all of that seems suddenly dim for some people. And the problem with that is that you are not seeing the moment, you are seeing a projection. The exquisite thing about reality is it's not the future and it's not the past. It is absolutely this. And if you squish down all of your perceptors, into this very moment, darkness and light cease to be. They may be there in some abstract form, they may kind of exist, really coexist in a way, but right in this moment, for most people, unless you are leaving the universe, and even then, it's hard to predict what you will know or feel, but there is something about this exquisite present tense that is reality. Reality, yes, it encompasses the future, yes, it encompasses the past, but it's all here in this, here and now, what is. Learning to bring your attention down into exquisite focus and just be present is the extraordinary answer to the question of how can I accept what is? Because this moment is deeply, deeply acceptable. This moment that you are in, without looking far down the road or far into the past, this moment is exquisitely real. It does not have to be weighted down with your worries and fears and thoughts and hopes and failed opportunities and wished for possibilities. This moment just is. It just is. One of the things I have been experiencing in this last few days, and very much teaching this class today, was that I felt like an infant. I felt like a tiny little child, a little bit beyond womb, kind of out in the world, discovering itself. One of the things I learned when I was a baby, and I've talked about this, is that when I put my thumb and finger together, I touched myself. I didn't know I was touching myself, but I was. And I liked touching me. I liked this. I liked being me. It was very foundational. It was very real. And I got to spend the other day with my grandchildren. I talk about endlessly. And they know about the election and they know stuff has gone on, but they are so blissful in their simple sense of self. And I hold their hand walking down the street, and I feel like I'm touching myself. It just happens to be a furthering of this self. It's a flowering of the self. And we walk down the street together, and there's joy. And I get to see it through their eyes, and it has none of the big, dark, light, worldly connections and fears and feelings. It's like excitement at being, excitement at walking into another store, excitement at an ice cream cone. It's so beautiful and full of joy and wonder, and it is real. Now you can argue, as many people would, that they don't know. They don't know the truth. But they do know the truth. We are the ones who don't know the truth. Yes, the world is chaotic and problematic, and yes, there is great stuff that happens and terrible things that happen, and depending upon your angle, whatever is happening at any given moment is either good or terrible, or somewhere in between. But walking down that street with my grandchild, particularly with Elijah this last week, it was like wordless, heart-opening, loving, embracing, exquisite awareness. That's available to all of us. It's available to all of us. You have to do this thing that we practice spiritually day by day, which is asking for help to surrender. Surrender the filter. Surrender the doors of perception that keep clouding the truth. Surrender the stuff that has built an awareness of the world that is, hopefully you're seeing for the first time or one of the few times, not real. Yes, the world is full of yin and yang, dark and light, good and bad, evil and kindness, and all of that stuff. Yes, it's all there. But moment to moment, you are the embodiment of that. And yet, how do you feel? How do you feel? Mostly, you feel, I can do this. I can be this. I am this. I am. This I amness is the foundational element of our awareness of reality. I am. Period. Not I am happy, sad, fearful, accepting. I am. I am. And that's what my grandchildren feel. I am. And they express it continually without self-reflection, without complexity. They just are. And sometimes it is happy, and sometimes it is sad, and sometimes it's expressing itself lovingly, and sometimes the opposite. But it's so real and so dynamic for them. And that's how it can be for us. My reaction to this week, and all of you know who know me personally that I had investments and hopes and outcomes for this week. But I really, really knew the moment things presented themselves that the one thing I had was my breath. And I went walking on Wednesday morning, up in the mountains, climbing hills, and what I was doing was breathing and breathing. And I took big, heavy steps up high hills, and it was hard, and it was engaging, and it was alive, and it was dynamic, and it was like, I am breathing, I'm alive, and the world had no care whatsoever for anything that went on around it. It was doing what it does. The trees were growing, the grass was growing, the pebbles were lying there, the path was the path, and I was like, yes, yes, yes. Of course, this is what it is. This is always what it is. It's never other than this. And we are grown-ups, and we know that we have televisions and newspapers and friends and all these things that open us up to a much bigger vision. And yes, that vision has a certain kind of power, and yes, it will impact the world around us. The steps we take may be different. The world may be, less embraceable on some level, but Take a breath. If you don't have a little kid's hand to hold, hold your own hand. Do this. Do this. Touch yourself. You are alive. You are here in the moment. There is unbelievable power in connecting to you. We have two hands because it allows us to touch us. We have a heart because it allows us to embrace us. We have a mind because it allows us to see what is and what isn't in a way. It allows us to know. Knowing is different than interpreting, it's just aware. We have a ego-minded voice that allows us to engage and disengage. It allows us to take action in the world, which for some people is a wonderful form of healing. We have a heart that can love others and ourselves. We have a navel chakra that allows us to be willful in our action, in what we do in the world and what we do internally. We have enormous power. We have this recreative energy in our sexuality that allows us to be reborn spiritually as much as physically and biologically. And we have this energy of this arising Kundalini energy, which is full of empowerment and awe and awareness. All of this going on at the same time. There's stuff happening atmospherically and around us and politically and ecologically. We are this living dynamic force, and we are powerful forces. Engage that. Be that. If you want to know reality, know yourself. Know you. You are the foundation of reality. And also, for whatever it's worth, your filters, clean window or dirty, whatever it is that allows you to look through the window, that's real as well. It's all real. The dynamic of letting go of the unreal helps you realize it's all real. The unreal, if you will, is a skewed version that you get to unskew. Nothing changes except you start to cleanse the windows, the windshield through which you see the world. And that's all that's different. That it was dirty was real, that it's clean is real. That you are starting to look through the scrim of your life, through the filters of your life, and you're getting to see the truth of being. This week has been an extraordinary opportunity to do that. And it will transform itself into some other new stasis that we will all find ourselves walking around in sooner than later. But take advantage of this moment. Take advantage. Feel what you're feeling. I have to say, I've been reading the papers and watching television. The exquisite eloquence of so many people right now is absolutely, it's ennobling and beautiful and wonderful, and you hear it all over the place, everywhere. The fact that Leonard Cohen died this week, who was a great singer-songwriter, his songs always touch me. Everywhere around now they're singing Hallelujah. I don't know if you watched Saturday Night Live last night, but it was really moving, really moving. You should watch it online if you didn't. Something is happening. Those of us who are being touched and expressing the truth of that touch are affecting others who have been touched, and we can comfort each other. I know the first thing that happened to me on the night of the election was I felt love for everyone I knew, and I wanted to touch my children, I wanted to touch my grandchildren, I wanted to touch all my friends. I wanted everyone I knew who I loved to let them know that I love them. I want all of you to know that that is true, that this love is the one thing we have. It binds us, it cements us at a time when things feel maybe for some people not loved. And this incredible thing has happened for those of you who are becoming open to it, is that we're beginning to see what it means to be other than us, and how many people have lived other lives than the lives we've lived, and have seen life through a filter that we have not seen it through. I'm saying we because I put myself in that space. I am beginning to really open to otherness, if you will, which has been a part of the process that I must say the spiritual journey has brought me into. We're all into it, and this has been what you call a tectonic shift probably for half of the population, if not more, and the whole world is responding to it. We don't get events that the whole world responds to very often. We usually get events that are rather localized. This is not local. This is big. This is all of us. This is the world having to re-examine itself, not to be angry, not to be in judgment, not to say you're wrong, I am right. Rightness comes from every direction. It comes from every direction. People have a reason for being who they are. Evolved intellect, evolved wisdom, evolved insight into the world is a real thing. And it may be, on some level, preferable to reptilian fight-or-flight kind of instincts. But they all exist within the spectrum of the being of that we are. And we can reach for the heights, and we can also embrace the low. But to cut yourself in half and say no to that and yes to this, that's where we run into trouble. So this is an extraordinary opportunity for coming together, for alignments, for opening to each other. It's never going to be perfect. The world isn't made like that. The world is dualistic. The world is separated. The world has highs and lows, goods and bads, and all these things are in interaction. That's real. And we find ourselves at different places along it. But the spiritual perspective is, I am that. I am that. And don't forget it. Everything you look at, say to yourself, even that. I am that. I am the totality. I am the reality. And at this moment in time, that reality is reflecting itself with enormous power into the mind of the entire planet. How it will unfold, what it will become, I'm not sure we need to go there. There are people who need to go there. We don't have to right now. But if you feel a real need to go there, follow your heart. Follow your instincts. Follow the voice in you that guides you into whatever you're supposed to be doing. But I will tell you, the most that you can really do is clear the windshield and at least see where you're driving. See where you're headed. Don't head blindly into the future. Keep a clear view. This meditation, your inner life, your spiritual unfolding will clarify for you what lies ahead. And what lies ahead will come at you in moment-to-moment bundles of truth. This is real. This is real. This is all you will ever know of reality. This is what is. Any questions?
You didn't say the word transcend, and when events unfolded this week, I thought, well, what would Rudy say? And I remember he was at this ashram, and he didn't like how he was treated, and the leader said, you got to surrender and you got to transcend it. And so I kept thinking of the word transcend and what that process is and what that means, and maybe everything you've just said is transcending, but can you speak to that, transcending?
I don't use the word a lot.
Okay.
Of transcending. For me, transcending kind of implies to me a leaving something behind that is foundational. And it's possible to transcend. In other words, let's say you're having a really hard day, and you take a deep breath into your heart, and you, quote unquote, rise above the day. You're no longer conditioned by the unhappiness, by the difficulty. You free yourself of that space. I guess that really would be a kind of transcending. But does that space really go anywhere? Does it really go anywhere? You are out of it. You are out of it. But in having gotten out of it, what's happened to it? And my feeling is, I'm formulating this as I speak, you are it. The acceptance of it has a transcendental aspect. It's like there's no you in obstruction to it, or fighting it, or in in frustration with it. There just is. And the what is has a feeling of the end of embattlement. So there's a kind of word that you would call, I've transcended it, but you haven't. You've just allowed it. You've embraced it, but more problematic is the idea that you and it exist as separate. The separate idea of you is the illusion and the problem. So if you can get out of something for the moment, it's like an ego release. It's like, oh, my ego went into totality. Well, that's great, but what you've really done is you have accepted totality. And so the ego-mindedness that wants transcendence for itself is a kind of false state in my mind. You can get there, you can have it, you can really do it in the world. You can take a breath and be free of something for the moment, but that's not free, it's just separate from, outside of it. But being outside of it doesn't allow for the it, and the it is there. So I would say, to the best of one's ability, as one is still in an ego-minded self, is just say yes, accept as deeply as you can, and you will feel that the friction between the you and the it dissipates, and you will feel, you'll feel transcendent. But I wouldn't give it that word. It's more of an embrace than a separation. Does that get there?
Yeah.
You're looking for something else, I can tell.
Well, no, I was trying to think of how to do that, and to me, you're still attached to it, but it's not positive or negative. You're looking at it as it's all one.
So let me put it this way again for a second. You're walking around all day fuming about what happened, what will happen, how bad it's going to get, it's so terrible, blah, 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 all of this noise in your head. You're just going on about this stuff. How do you get out of it? Where do you go? The place you go is pretty much what I was trying to talk about. Right here. Meaning, stop being in the future. Stop wishing it had been otherwise. You just go into the absolute, I'll call it security, of this moment. Because this moment really, although it includes everything, your version of it, your space of it, is full of light, full of present tense reality, and not what might be, what could be, what will be. That doesn't matter. That may all come to play, and then you'll have to do the same thing all over again. Where do you go when the worst of the worst starts to happen? You only have one place to go. This is it, right here. And if it's totally unbearable, which it can be, life can get like that, the answers aren't going to be out there. Going out there is going to be the worst thing you can possibly do. When it's totally unbearable, the pressure to go in is very intense. When you really go in, I will tell you, my experience is it takes you in. It takes you into this place that is like the ultimate embrace of being. Do you want to find that out for yourself? You can go there right now. You don't have to wait for the worst of the worst of the worst. I mean, so many people, they're on their deathbed and they suddenly discover for the first time that there's a doorway in, because there's no place left out for them. There's nothing outside will be of any value. That's what finally gets people to go in. The great spiritual directive is go there now. Don't wait till you're dying. Don't wait till the worst of the worst happens. Go there. What's there? And those of you who've done this, it's not an easy passage to go in, because we have so much mind stuff in the way that we don't know how to enter that door very well. But when there's no choice, when it's really awful out there, you'll find your way in. You will, because you don't want to be in those thoughts. You don't want to be in that noise framework because it's so awful. So you go to the one place that will take you in. That may be the ultimate transcendence, but it's the most present place there is. It's the most real space there is. And it happens to be inside you. The kingdom of heaven is what Christ called it. It's right there. And but that's not separate from this world. It's the foundation of this world. It's the essence of it. And you get to go there because it's where you come from. And the fact that people get lost in all of this, that's the human condition. The fact that you find yourself going back to that space, that's your spiritual awakening. You only go back to where you've always been, period. It's not new. It is not unexpected, although You may be surprised by it. When you finally go there, you go, oh yeah, this. Pretty extraordinary. And not to find it, you live in the chaos of the world and you know what that's like. And there are a lot of people out there not comfortable in that space. I would say most people. Not comfortable. Even the ones who get what they want. Not comfortable. Primarily because no matter what you get, it doesn't last. And we all know that somewhere. We all know that. You know, you get the best house, you get the best meals, you get all the wealth and all the best things that the life has to offer, and then what? Gone. What was that about? Why did I work so hard to get everything when they're taking it away? Well, the spiritual lesson, early on, they're going to take it all away. So why don't you do the thing that makes sense, which is love what you have? Why don't you do that? Why don't people do that? The mind gets crazy. But, you know, spiritual life returns you to a simplicity and to an openness and to a gratitude and an appreciation of the what is, which is very simple and takes care of everything. One grape can satisfy everything you ever wanted in life. You know? It just, for me, ice cream. Whatever the thing is, it can provide enormous completion and wholeness. Yes, we have to work in the world. Yes, we're born. Yes, we're in bodies. Yes, we have to deal with these lives we've attracted. Yes, the mind has made this enormous kind of configuration that we call ourself. But go deep. Unwind it. Unravel it. Go into yourself. Stop believing the illusion because it's an illusion. Find what's real and then be part of this reality, which you are anyway. And you'll have an extraordinary, day by day, moment to moment appreciation of existence.
In this state right now where so many people are feeling ravaged, I keep going to the word possibilities of irreparable damage, and I keep thinking that is it possible to hold simultaneously everything that you're talking about, but then also, you know, coalesce that with the philosophy of Thich Nhat Hanh and engage Buddhism, that the greatest peace is what you're talking about, but as you said, healing through active engagement.
Yes, of course. You can do that. I wouldn't call it irreparable damage, because nothing is that in the world. I mean, what's the most irreparable damage there is except the loss of you? And what do we do with that? I mean, you know, the loss of you may feel like, you know, I'll never be back. That's true. You'll never be back. Your goodness and kindness and love will never be in the world again. Is it irreparable? Something will come to follow it. Something will follow you. I mean, I can't be absolute about this. My belief is we are infinite and endless, and we will go on. Life is infinite and endless in whatever form, whether it's on this planet or elsewhere. I have no idea what that really is going to be. But I know this moment is what is, and it is reparable. We can repair this moment in ourselves. And I do know that if you are living with a fear of irreparable damage in the future, you are going to be conditioned in a particular way that will not be a happy, joyous way to live. And why deny yourself that? Because of the possibility of something in the future. We don't know yet that it's irreparable. And also, for half of the population, maybe it's the best thing that could have happened. You and I probably don't believe that completely, but a huge part of the population believes they are going to finally get what they've always wanted. Now, nobody gets what they've always wanted. In truth, that's the way this works. Everyone's going to be frustrated or sad in the end. But I have lived through a lot of political administrations that were the last thing that I wanted to have there, and I'm still here. You know, the worst of the worst of the worst hasn't happened. Now, maybe it will. Some people lived through Nazi Germany. I'd say the worst of the worst happened. You know, it did. But their survivors are living here in America with, you know, some of them, with very joyous lives. How do we know what's the right and what's the wrong and what's the good and what's the bad? For all we know, you and I were in the camps together in the 40s, and now we're here having this dialogue. I don't know. That's a good story. You know, I'm a filmmaker. I write stories. Maybe our lives are so rich now because we learned great lessons going through some horrible upheavals somewhere along the way. I have no idea. I can tell narratives to the day, to the, the sheep come home, whatever it's called. I can go on and on. You're doing the same thing. You're making up a narrative right now for yourself, justifying your future action, justifying your unhappiness and your sadness. I would just say, stop for a minute. Relax. Go deep. Go deep. Feel the stillness, and then see what action wants to arise out of that. And just see. So rather than project it and build it into place right now, let it arise out of the truth of the moment rather than out of the configuration of your mind and your fears and your disappointments and all of that, which can cause a lot of grief. Just another way of looking at it. But if you can't do it that way, of course you're going to follow your instincts because that's what we do. But I'm saying the spiritual possibility of separating from your instinct, seeing life clearly for a minute, which a lot of people are getting right now, is a gift. Seeing reality opens you to your heart, it opens you to others, opens you to truth, opens you to light as well as dark. It makes you one with the universe. It's a very powerful moment, and it won't last long. So embrace it.
I'm just curious if the way you see energy in a group, is it changed from last week to this week?
Yeah.
What are you seeing?
Well, to the degree that I could sense it, it was very heavy. Very heavy and very emotional. There was a lot of deep emotion stuff running through this room, and it was locked up in a lot of people's bodies, and very hard to get to be honest. There's a lot of heaviness, and I wasn't surprised, but it was there.
I just wanted to offer one of the things that I've gotten from my work in 12-step programs is to pray for the new president or whoever the problem that you're having with that person or that event or that whatever, that place, thing, whatever that is, you pray for them to have everything that you want and have in your life, for them to also have that.
I happen to love that idea. I'm a big fan of 12-step programs. I think the idea of recognizing your own helplessness and looking to God in prayer is really extraordinary. Praying for the other, praying for that which you don't understand is beautiful. And I think that if you want an action, an activity to engage in, that's a good one.
Yeah. Well, for me, what it does is it allows me to see them as a human being.
One of the great things about our new president is he is incredibly human. And and I think that's important. I was saying to Blanche yesterday, there's a great Shakespearean play to be done here, and the things that are unfolding are going to be quite remarkable, and we're going to experience it, and some of it's going to be not what we want as filtered beings. I'm telling you, one of the ways to look at the world is that there have been people out there who have not had what they want for a very long time too. And that we see it through our perspective. I'm saying we because I think I belong to a certain particular viewpoint, but that viewpoint is not the only viewpoint. And there are people who have been hurting in ways that we're just experiencing. And the tables are turning. Do they ever completely turn? No, because it keeps going. It just keeps going. It goes on and on and on. It's the nature of duality, and we're all in it. And it's how we absorb the non-dual in the dual. How do we absorb the changeless in the changeable? That's what spirituality tries to do. And it's not to hide out in the changeless. It's to be in the changeless so you can exist in the changeable, so that you are one with the totality. And it's an extraordinary place to live from. And it ennobles you in many ways. It allows you to accept the stuff that most of us run from. You go, even this, which I say repeatedly, even this.
But, so I I can fathom everything you're saying about the cycles and that we have survived, and yet things are happening on a magnitude that the world has never experienced before in terms
Well,
of...
don't say that.
Well, climate scientists who talk about the tipping point.
Yes, yes, okay.
This is specifically what I'm referring to, a tipping point, and
Jenny, I'm totally in your.
So how do we deal with that? You know, the climate scientists'
Yes.
prognosis.
Think about it. Think about it. Maybe march on Washington. Maybe bring out the whole world to say to those in power, we're not in agreement with your illusion about climate change. That might be a way. I mean, I don't know what that would actually do. I don't know how that would make you feel. But the reality of climate change is that it's in play, that it's very big, and that it's going to be hard to reverse at this point, no matter what we do. We may feel good about changing the emissions of our coal plants and our cars and all of these things and our air conditioners. We may feel good about it, but this is part of what is happening. And it's pretty horrible. I would love to be able to cause it to reverse or stop in its tracks, but whatever has been started is. And it's part of something we're going through. And I see it as part of something very big, almost kind of unavoidable. The mere experience of having human beings create combustion engines and these various chemicals that can go into air conditioners, that was built into the system before anyone knew anything. We were not setting out to pollute and destroy the world or the climate. That's an effect. Can we stop it? Well, I mean, maybe. Do I feel some kind of deep concern about the current administration not stepping in the 4 years right now that we think it needs to stop? That's a big issue. On the other hand, will those 4 years in the multi-billion-year history of the planet really be enough? I don't know. I don't know. I understand your feelings. I understand your passion. I have many of the same things. But me, Bruce, whoever this person is, aware of all of this, this is part of what Robin was talking about as prayer. Pray that people will start to see that this can change. March on Washington, if that's what will do it. Write articles. You're good at writing articles. Put everything you can out there. It will make you feel better. Will it make it real? The reality is you do what you do. You do what you can do. That's all wonderful. I think we should all find the thing we think we need to do. But to walk around in a state of despair, frustration, profound depression, anger, all of that, you have a choice about that. And I think you should look to that choice now because it's rising up. And yes, it's ennobling you to take action, but don't bring anger to that action. I remember when the Iraq War started, and Blanche and I, did I talk about this last week? We went to the Peace March for the Iraq War. In L.A. What? Against yeah, we wanted to bring priests. Sorry, yes. And we went and we marched to bring peace. Within 10 minutes of being in that crowd, I said, I've never been in a more antagonistic, angry, hostile environment in my life than that peace crowd. It was the worst group of human beings to be around. They had anger in their heart. Their anger at the war was bigger than the war for me. And I said, that's it. That's it. I'm not joining Peace Corps. I'm going to be peace. I'm going to be that which I want to see in the world. We've heard that from so many teachers. Be the change you want. There you go. Be it. That's a big thing. Do you know how few people are able to be the change they want? You can count them on a few hands, you know. How many people actually do it? That's it. And don't go into a world against war being warrior-like. That doesn't help. You know, if you want peace, bring peace to the planet by being peaceful.
The way Martin Luther King.
I can't talk about Martin Luther King because I didn't know him, and I know stories about him that are contradictory. But yes, doing what he tried to do, doing what Mahatma Gandhi did, you can do those things. You can do those things and be human and fallible. So let's include Martin Luther King, who I really did love, but he was a really flawed person, as are we all. Great Leonard Cohen song, which I only just recently heard, called Anthem, but it talks really about it's the cracks in us that allow in the light. Mm-hmm. That's a great line, and I'm going to stop on that. It's the cracks in us that bring in the light. Thank you, guys.